Christianity took that pagan celebration of the solstice, the spring, the coming of spring, not the solstice, but the coming of spring, as they call the vernal equinox, the coming of spring, and made that the celebration of Easter. And the date of Easter is not tied to anything biblically, really. It's based on an old calendar. It comes on the first Sunday following the first full moon, following the vernal equinox. So following the coming of spring, the first Sunday following the first full moon, following the vernal equinox, is Easter Sunday. And so it can be very late in March. It can be very late in April, but it comes sometime next year. It will be, I think, April the 24th, and some years it's as early as March 24th. So anywhere in that month, we can celebrate Easter. The basic faith story of Easter is that, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, came to share life, and as he gathered with his disciples at the Passover celebration, the Jewish Passover celebration, at that Passover celebration, when he entered into Jerusalem, there was all kinds of unrest, because his coming upset the authorities. It upset the Roman authorities, and it upset the Jewish high priest. And there are lots of things I can tell you about that. The basic outline of the story is that all of those events conspired in such a way that one of his own disciples betrayed him. He was arrested. He was taken before the Roman officials. He was beaten. He stood before Pontius Pilate, the Roman authority, who asked him, "Are you the Son of God?" And his answer was something very strange. We don't understand. "If you say so." And that was his answer. And then Pilate ordered that he be crucified. The crowd was yelling for him to be crucified, and this was a capital punishment, was basically carried out for treason against Rome, against the authorities. And so Jesus was crucified between two common criminals. And we believe that he was fully human and fully God, and that he suffered and died on the cross. And as he was on the cross, he said things like, "Father, forgive them. They do not know what they do." And he trusted God, he yielded his spirit, and died on that cross. Christians through the years have come to understand that in his death he was taking on the weight of sin of the world. In his death he was offering a path of salvation for all who believe in him, for the weight of sin to fall all upon him and to be taken off of us. He was placed into a tomb for burial, and a stone was rolled over that tomb. And it was the Jewish Sabbath, and so they asked if they could take him down off the cross. They took him off the cross. He was laid in the tomb, covered over with a stone, and then it was the Sabbath day. And because it was the Sabbath day, it was a time of rest, and so nothing could be done. But early on the first day of the week, what would have been Sunday morning, early on that first day of the week, women came to the tomb to care for his body, to bring the burial ointments and care for his body. And at that time, when they arrived at the tomb, there was a great earthquake. The stone was rolled back, and when they arrived, the tomb was empty. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, This is all in our scriptures, in our Gospels. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and various reports from the Gospel writers say that the angel said, "Why do you seek the living among the dead? Why do you seek the living among the dead? He's not here. He has been raised, just as he told you he would." Jesus had predicted prior to his death. He had said several times, "I'm going to Jerusalem, and there I must suffer and die and then be raised from the dead." So several times in the scriptures he calls that out. On that, so the women were the first to hear this news. They ran to tell the others, and there's a report of an encounter with Jesus there in the garden, that he called a woman named Mary. He called her by name, Mary, and she said, "Rabbi," it is teacher, Jesus, teacher, and that she actually encountered him. And then the other disciples ran to the tomb and found it empty, and they too, there were various reports, as our Gospels, as our scriptures present, of encounters with the risen Christ. Now, if you were looking for scientific evidence of the resurrection, you would not find in the Bible, in our scriptures, you would not find scientific evidence, proof that Jesus was raised from the dead. I cannot offer you any scientific evidence of that, of proof of that. No one really has scientific proof that Jesus did or did not rise from the dead. What we believe is a matter of faith. It's not a matter of having proof, hard, tangible evidence. It's a matter of faith. There was a time in my life where I had serious doubts about the resurrection story, where I said, well, I just know, as a person of reason and science, that dead bodies don't get up and rise from the dead. I've seen people die, they don't get up and rise again. It doesn't make sense. Christian witness through the years has been that God did this. God raised him up. It was not about having proof, it was about having faith. My mind was changed when I began to study what happened after Easter in the lives of the apostles, in the lives of his disciples, his followers. Because in the lives of his followers, some interesting things happened. Simon Peter was one of his followers who denied him to save his own skin when Jesus was crucified. He denied him. He said, I don't know him. They asked him, weren't you a friend of Jesus? And he said, I don't know who you're talking about. I mean, that sounds like human beings. That's the way we do. Aren't you a friend of Jesus? I don't know him. And Simon Peter, after encountering the risen Christ, was a different man. And he stood before the very authorities who crucified Christ and said, this Jesus whom you crucified has been raised, and we believe he is the Son of God, and we believe he's come to offer salvation to the world. And so he proclaimed the good news. And in looking at the lives of those persons, now you could say there was no proof of resurrection, but you see the lives that have been transformed. Their lives were changed forever. Because whatever happened, and we don't know what happened, but God did something. We believe God did something in the resurrection of Jesus Christ that changed everything. It changed the whole way we understand how we are to live.